Hey guys, as we all know, the year 2020 has turned out to be much more of a shit show than we originally planned. And so a lot of people who were planning their weddings in 2020 and 2021 have instead decided to have smaller, more intimate backyard weddings. And that's kind of what I'm encouraging on this channel anyway, just because that's something I'm doing. So I just want, in general, people to know that having a simple backyard wedding can be a really awesome option and not like a less good option than a big fancy wedding. If you still do want that big fancy 200 plus guest wedding, don't despair. I mean, you probably can't do it right now, but sometime in the future, hopefully things will be somewhat back to normal and you can have that dream wedding that you've always wanted. But if you do feel exhausted by wedding planning and you just want to do something simple that's also really fun, hopefully these 10 tips for how to have a simple backyard wedding will help you out. These are all tips that I've gathered myself as I was planning my own simple backyard wedding the past year. My wedding did end up getting postponed. It was supposed to be in June 2020. Now we're not really sure. We're just waiting to set our wedding date until things have calmed down a little bit. But these are the 10 tips I've learned in my own wedding planning and also things that I've learned from other people. So hopefully they'll help you out in your own backyard wedding planning. In addition to all these tips I'm going to give you, I also wrote this huge big old 21-step guide for how to have a simple wedding. So I'll go ahead and link that down below if you're interested. And I have a free ceremony guide and script which you can get on my website, which I'll also link down below. Okay, so let's take a look at these 10 tips for how to have a simple backyard wedding. If you've watched any of my other videos on this channel, guys, you already know what tip number 1 is going to be, and that is to wear cheap wedding clothes. So get a wedding dress and also a men's suit. That's not gonna break the bank. My own wedding dress budget for my backyard wedding was $300, which I even think is like maybe a little bit too expensive because you can find a lot of dresses online that are even cheaper than that. It seems like, especially right now, due to the crazy things going on in the world, you can find even better deals than before. I saw in a Facebook group this girl got a $3,500 wedding gown for $500 just because it was being marked down because they just weren't getting as many customers. I've personally made a few videos on wedding dress try-ons of dresses that are under $300, $200, and $100 that you can buy online from all kinds of different shops like Nordstrom, LULUS, ModCloth, a lot of my favorite online stores. So if you're wondering if you can just buy a wedding dress online, you definitely can. So check out some of those try-on videos. Another thing you can do is to buy a used wedding dress from something like Nearly Newlywed or Still White or Once Wed. These are all wedding dress online platforms where people can sell their once worn wedding dresses, which really just means that they wore that wedding dress for like 5 or 6 hours and then resold it online for much cheaper. So you can get a designer wedding dress for like just a few $100s on one of those websites. So be sure to check that out. And for men's suits, you could just have your fiance wear something he already has or that she already has, or just get a men's suit from ASOS. They have like $200 men's suits on ASOS.com. And it's a really ethical, good company and it gets sent right to your door. My second backyard wedding tip is about the food. So I'm gonna go ahead and suggest that you either, 1, DIY your food with help. You're gonna need a small army of help if you decide to DIY your food. Or 2, go for a small family restaurant. Don't get like a big professional catering company and try to get them to quote you at like $20 a head or less. And if you're gonna DIY your own food, and then like you need to have someone in charge who knows what they're doing, first of all. This is gonna be really important. And then you need an army, like 10 or fewer, maybe between 5 and 10 helpers to come to your house the day before, maybe a couple of days before, and help you prep all the food. So this can be something that's really fun. It doesn't have to be stressful and awful. You can do something simple like a taco bar or a barbecue. I actually wrote a couple of articles about how to DIY your own wedding food, so I'll drop those down below. And it can just be a really fun experience. It doesn't have to be super stressful. So step number 2 is just to DIY your own food or have a small family restaurant cater for you. Simple backyard wedding tip number 3 is to hire staff. So this can just be like 2 people. That's it. If you want, imagine you're having a really small backyard wedding of about 50 people. That's still a lot of people, and you're gonna have plates to bus, you're gonna have linens to clean up, you're gonna have food platters to replenish, drinks to refill, and maybe even somebody to kind of stand at the bar and You can either have them make drinks or fill drinks, to tap kegs, all that stuff. So it is important to have like a couple of people whose job it is to work your wedding. And these can just be friends of friends who you've hired by the hour. It really doesn't have to be anything too fancy, but you should have someone. The fourth tip is really important, and this is to have all of your rentals delivered and set up the day before your wedding or the night before your wedding. If you don't do this, you're gonna have a really stressful morning of your wedding, just with everything that's going on, trying to set up your stuff. Even if it's small, even if it's little things, have it all done the day before. So that means things like rented glassware, rented chairs, tables, linens, a rented tent, all of that. Try to have it delivered and set up the night before, and ask people to help you, of course. So get people beforehand, just let them know that they need to come over the day before and help you set up all this stuff for your wedding the next day. Number 5 is something you're probably doing already, but it's to keep your wedding decor as minimalistic as possible, especially when it's in the backyard. You don't want to complicate things too much. So that means having plenty of string lights, things like candles, tea lights. Also, just things like wildflowers or solo wood flowers go a long way toward making the atmosphere really cozy and beautiful, but without going really overboard and spending a lot of money. Might I also suggest carpets? That's what we're going to be using for our backyard wedding. Which brings me to tip number 6, which is to use carpets as your dance floor. If you're having a backyard wedding, you might be looking into things like building your own dance floor or renting a dance floor, which can be quite expensive. But if you want to save a lot of money, just use carpets. Get like a thrifted faux Persian carpet or whatever, and you could even use a couple of them and layer them, and this becomes your dance floor magically in your backyard. I've seen some really beautiful pictures of this on Pinterest, and I think if you're having this wedding in your own backyard, having a carpet also doesn't really damage the grass too much. Don't quote me on that, but I think so it can be kind of a perfect solution for a dance floor. Tip number 7 is also about the dance floor, but about the music specifically. I'm going to recommend to you that you make at least an 8-hour-long playlist. If you're not planning on having a DJ and you're just plugging a device into rented speakers, make a long playlist that you're really happy with, that you've taken some time with and put some effort into to create, if music is something that's important to you. Because something that happens inevitably at a wedding, especially a wedding without a DJ, is that you'll have tension at the end of the night between guests who are really into dancing but are arguing or whatever over like what is considered danceable music. I'm guilty of doing this as a terrible wedding guest. So you have people like fighting over the computer or the phone or whatever is being used to play the music about what is danceable and what song should be played next, and you don't really want that. So you might even want to, in addition to making a playlist, like hide the playing device, or just maybe like putting a sign over it like, please be respectful of the playlist, it was created by the bride or whatever. If you would like to request a song, please talk to, and you could designate a point person if like there's anyone brave enough to take that job on for the night. But you just don't want like 10 people going over and switching songs constantly and like messing up the playlist that you created. So also put some kind of sign or note on it so people will hopefully be respectful of the music. Tip number 8 for your simple backyard wedding is regarding the alcohol that you're going to be serving. So the great thing about having a backyard wedding is that you don't need like a liquor license, you don't need to worry about paying for really expensive alcohol or having a limited open bar. You can really like do anything you want if you're having a wedding in your own backyard or the backyard of somebody who you know. So my advice for this is a couple of things. One is to buy your alcohol wholesale. So buy a bunch in bulk, and you'll usually be able to get some kind of a discount. Another piece of advice is to start buying your alcohol early, and since you're stocking up over time, maybe over a 6-month period, you can always be on the lookout for deals. Or you can ask your friends and family members to also be on the lookout for deals at liquor stores near them. So you'll end up saving a lot of money in the long run. If you're not sure how much alcohol to buy for your backyard wedding, don't worry. I found it calculated the number of bottles that you should buy for an open bar, and I put that on my website, so I'm going to link that down below if anybody wants to look at that if you're confused on how much alcohol you should buy for your wedding. My 9th tip is to keep your wedding ceremony, the actual ceremony part of your wedding, short and sweet if you're having a backyard wedding. Don't hold your guests hostage, keep it at like 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to be making another video on how to write or how to have a small, simple wedding ceremony, so look out for that. But remember that it's good for your ceremony to fit the venue, and if your venue is a backyard backyard. It's better not to have this long drawn out hour-long with a million readings kind of ceremony. And my 10th tip for having a simple backyard wedding ceremony, which is probably going to cause people a lot of grief, is to keep your guest count low. This is easier said than done, and you probably won't be able to do this without offending at least a few people, but it's going to be better for you in the end if you only have like hand-picked people at your wedding ceremony who you genuinely want to be there, who aren't going to make you anxious, who are just going to look at you beaming with love the whole time. Imagine 50 people who just truly love you both in the same room at the same time, who you don't have to worry about, and you can just like relax and enjoy yourself with those few special guests. That's the atmosphere that you want to create for a simple backyard wedding. If you want to learn more about having cheap, affordable weddings, guys, follow me along as I plan my own wedding on this channel. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.